When I started my vet tech career journey, I started in a very small wellness clinic. It was one doctor, it was very predictable cases, and a very good, relaxing atmosphere to learn new skills. Then I decided to switch to a full service practice, a busy 5-doctor practice, and the learning curve has been pretty steep. Did I make the right choice? Well, we're going to talk about that. My name is Sally, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I am a former teacher turned vet tech, and in this video, we're going to talk about the differences from my perspective from working at a wellness clinic versus a full-service hospital. So if you are new to the veterinary field, thinking about joining it, or if you've ever made a shift like that, maybe this is a great video for you. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the people. So beginning in a wellness clinic, it was very small. We had one doctor, there were 2 techs plus me and a receptionist. So when you are just working with 4 other people, you get to know each other very well. Whether you're the same personality or not, you learn the other people pretty quickly, and you know their strengths, their weaknesses. You learn to work together really well, really fast, and you actually develop a really good dynamic. So it's just a relaxing environment. The environment of a small place like that is one of not very much stress. Now, when I switched to the full service hospital, the very first thing I noticed when I walked in the door was just the amount of people everywhere. It's 5 doctors, and then there's over 30 other employees there. So you've got the receptionists, you've got the other techs. There's just a lot of people. So there's a lot going on, and it's sort of chaotic, honestly. Getting to know the other people is a little bit more of a challenge because you've got a lot of people on different schedules, and they're located in different places throughout the hospital doing different things. And just with that amount of people, you're going to have a little bit more turnover rate and a little bit more conflicts that can come up between personality types. So the environment is just an overall different feel. Now, that said, there's a lot of different people at different skill levels, so there's a lot to learn from other people. And it's also kind of fun to just watch the goings-on of this place, to be honest. So the environments are very different. The wellness clinic is calm and relaxing, and the animal hospital is just a little bit more chaotic. What I'd like to talk about next is what it's like to work with 1 doctor versus 5 doctors. And honestly, that is a lot to get used to. When you're working with 1 doctor, you know right away what your expectations are. It's going to be consistent. When you're working with 5 doctors, it can take a little bit of getting used to. So one thing that was different for me at the practice I'm at now is that some of the doctors like to go in with the tech as they get history. In my previous place, the techs always went in first. So that's a little bit different. Also, at the place I'm at now, the doctors tend to like it if the techs introduce the client to possible diagnostics if they are in the room without the doctor. So if I go in to get history without the doctor would like me to mention to the client the possible diagnostics. Now that's where it helps to know your doctor, because some doctors tend towards different diagnostics than others. So, knowing what the different tests are, what kind of symptoms would warrant what kind of test, that takes a little bit to learn. Also, in terms of being in the room with the doctor, some doctors want the techs to be taking a lot of notes in the computer, writing down the things like the heart rate or the temperature, things that the doctor may call out, but then also notating anything that's instructed to the client. So if the doctor is saying, make sure that this dog is on, rest for the next whatever days, you're writing that down into the record so that the doctor has that and those client instructions are already ready to go home with the client. Now, some vets like to do their own notes. So, this is kind of one of those things where you're learning what one doctor prefers over the other doctor. So that can take a little bit of getting used to. Another area that this can be different would be things like dosing, medication dosages. Some doctors want you to calculate separately from them so that you make sure you've got the same number. And I think that's a really great way to double check each other. But some doctors prefer just to put it in. You're always expected to double check, but some doctors want you to double check in real time. So you're calculating the dose and then the doctor's calculating the dose, and then you just kind of have a way of double checking that. Trying to think of some other differences in working with the doctors, but I guess it would really just come down to personalities. They have different tolerances for being late into rooms, being stressed about different things going on. So it's personalities that you're learning as well. Same thing as with working with the other techs. It's, you're getting used to different personalities. All right, let's move on and talk about skills. In the wellness clinic, I learned a lot of those foundational skills that I still use in the full service practice. So that may be things like blood draws. At the place that I work now, we do both in-house and send-out labs. At the place I worked before, at the wellness clinic, we only sent out blood work. But we did do in-house things like heartworm tests and feline leukemia tests, things like that. But for both, you still need to have the ability to hold for blood draws and also to perform blood draws. So that stayed the same. I learned how to do things like ear cytologies, fecal flotations. That made switching into the full service practice much easier because I already had that skill. So that was something I could feel confident in despite the chaos of the new environment. So those foundational skills are really important. And honestly, I'm glad I learned those at the wellness clinic because it was a much more relaxed environment. I feel like if I had gone straight into the veterinary hospital with no experience, that would have been pretty stressful to learn all of those things. Now, in the full service practice, we have x-rays and ultrasounds. We didn't have that in the wellness clinic. We also do laser therapy and acupuncture, whereas we did not do that at the wellness clinic. Now, here's my cat. He likes to make his appearances. Are you not going to look at the camera? So in terms of things to learn, we do a lot more in-house. We do urinalyses in-house. We do x-rays in-house. I mean, it's a really different environment to go from a wellness clinic to a full service hospital. So there are some skills that I learned in the wellness clinic that I don't use in the full service clinic. Let me explain. In the wellness clinic, there's not a huge amount of staff. So when you're doing something, you're doing everything. I learned how to give vaccines. Now, at the place that I'm at now, the training program is very clear and you have to be injection certified in order to give injections. I've only been at this hospital for about, maybe I'm starting my 5th month, so I haven't gotten through the training. So I'm not able to give vaccines yet. But at the previous place, because it was a small staff, everybody did everything essentially. So I was giving vaccines. So the only one I wasn't allowed to give at the wellness clinic was the rabies vaccine, because that one is legally required to be given by veterinarians in my state. But I also assisted in preparations for spay and neuter surgery. I don't do any of that stuff at the full service hospital because, like I said, there's a training protocol and you have to go through stages of what you're learning. So while I do think it's better to go through that training so that you truly know what you're doing before you get into doing some of these things, it is interesting to me how different the requirements are in different places. So I find that to be pretty interesting. All right, let's talk about some general things now. So the wellness clinic is a little bit more calm and relaxing. The full service hospital is loud, it's fast paced, it's busy. The emotional toll is going to be higher, and also the physical toll is going to be higher in a full service hospital. So in the wellness clinic, you've got cases that are coming in for annual exams, and anything else is referred out. We refer stuff out at the place that I am currently working, but honestly, those cases are going to be very severe or require a specialist. For us, we do get a lot of emergency cases. We do take people in that, if their dog has been hit by a car, something like that, or if a dog is very ill, they'll come to us for treatment. Whereas at the wellness clinic, we didn't. We sent that somewhere else. So therefore, the emotions can be high. You have clients who are very upset and stressed about their animal. But then you also have doctors who are stressed about their caseload or about the case they're working on. So the emotions are a lot higher. In terms of what I'm learning, I learn a lot more at the full service hospital because, so again, 5 doctors, they're talking to each other. If a case comes in, they can speak to each other to get a second opinion. They'll confer with each other about x-rays that are up on the screens. It's really interesting to stand back and listen to the doctors talk to each other. And you can learn so much when you've got multiple doctors with different levels and different areas of expertise. So I am learning a lot more. So the trade-off is that you have the wellness clinic, which is a much more relaxing environment, but it is going to be a little bit limited in terms of what you can learn. Whereas the full service hospital is going to be a lot more physically demanding and also emotionally draining, but you're learning a lot more. So when it comes down to it, what do I prefer? Honestly, I would do it all over again the same way. I would start in a wellness clinic where I could learn at a slower pace, sort of dip my toes into it, and then also move on to the full service just to gain more experience and knowledge. Both have their benefits. So if you're new to the field, I would say I definitely recommend starting in a wellness clinic or a slower paced clinic. Maybe not a multi-doctor practice just because it can be overwhelming. It's also, while you're learning so much more, it's a lot to learn at once. And I didn't even get into the whole software change, all of that. There's just so much to it. And also for me, I'm also learning inventory, which means I'm learning all the medications, what they are, what they're used for, what the hospital runs out of quickly, not even in terms of medications, but other things too. Bandages, toilet paper. It's so much involved in keeping an animal hospital running. So it's a pretty big learning curve to go from a small place to a large place, but I do think it's worth it. So how about you? Have you switched from one to the other, from wellness to full service or from full service to emergency? I really want to hear about it. What was the biggest change for you? Leave questions, comments, anything down there for me. I really want to hear your stories and your experiences. And thank you so much for joining in today.